Good evening, I am Faida Gaga. You can also follow us live via our YouTube channel, TBC Online. Also, get all the latest news through our Instagram, Facebook and Twitter pages at TBC Online. Vice President Dr. Philip Mpango has invited European Union investors to invest in the projects that aim at bringing changes in the agriculture, tourism, transport and energy sector. Vice President made the remarks during the opening of the Tanzania EU Business Forum in Dar es Salaam. Lulua Mohammed reports.
It is the opening of the forum that brings together more than 700 business community in Tanzania and European Union with the purpose of strengthening business activities in Tanzania and European countries. Speaking during the forum, the Vice President, Dr. Philip Mpango, calls on the European Union business community to invest in the country in various sectors, following the government continuing to create a
project that aims at maintaining peace and stability in African countries.
Are guaranteed to exponentially succeed. It is our hope that this very first EU-Tanzania Business Forum is the beginning of many more to come. As we have embarked on the journey, we look forward to having candid discussions on the opportunities and your fears and the constraints that hinder faster progress in stimulating investment and trade from the EU member states.
The European Union is a leading bloc in terms of investment in our country in different sectors of the economy. Investment made by European Union member countries worth euro 3,444.23 million and created about 70,393 jobs for Tanzanians.
The EU has vowed to continue to invest in the country, and so far the Union has already invested a total of $1.5 billion in various projects.
Reflects the new partnership that the European Union and Africa have defined together and that they are putting into action. This partnership is based on common values, on shared commitments to the promotion of an international world-based order, and on collective action for sustainable and inclusive development.
We look forward to strengthen and deepen this relationship through the conclusion of the Economic Partnership Agreement, as we are doing with Kenya, and we hope soon to do also with Tanzania. Tanzania is a country of opportunities and an increasing economic potential. Tanzania is also the logistical hub for trade. The completion of big infrastructure developments, like the Standard Gauge Railway, will make this even more evident.
Dr. Mpango also witnessed the signing of various contracts that aims at improving the aviation industry, energy sector and logistics in the country.
I strongly believe that direct flight between Genia, AAKI and Kia and the metropolitan France will increase the number of guests in Tanzania coming from the France, Europe and the rest of the world through the airline networks and connections.
Over the last 45 years, the EIB has worked with Tanzania partners to support clean energy, water, agriculture, tourism, and business financing across your beautiful country. This visit marks the return of the European Investment Bank.
2022 investment report shows that Tanzania has exported products worth 256 million euros to Europe, equivalent to 8% of the total export, while European countries exported to Tanzania the products of 856 million euros, equivalent to 10% of global exports. Lulua Mohammed, TBC News.
In other news, Prime Minister's Office and Global Peace Foundation, GPF, say 1,500 young people have been reached by Peace and Youth Project that aims at maintaining peace and stability in African countries. Here's a report by Harry Mabumo, read by Apasia Ringo.
For about an year, the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, has been funding the Peace and Youth Project. It is run by the World Peace Foundation in collaboration with the Prime Minister's Office in Lindi, Mtwara and Ruvuma regions. Giving an evaluation of the implementation of the project, the resident director of the Global Peace Foundation, Martha Ngambi, highlights that more than 1,500 young people have been reached by the project. Some of them are primary school, secondary school, and college students in order to nurture them on the basis of peace.
Earlier this month, the African Center for Strategic Studies reported that the number of reported violent incidents in northern Mozambique increased by 29% in 2022. And violence against civilians accounts for 66% regions of the continent. All of these violent events happens within northern Mozambique.
United Nations Development Programme Senior Community Development Officer Jeremiah Mwambange outlines the challenges that need to be addressed from family level.
Tanzania is a stable and peaceful country. It is a beacon of hope in the region. You know, and one might wonder, why are we focusing on this project? Why are we looking at peace in Tanzania? Why target the young people? And we believe that we must appreciate and harness this demographic dividend by treasuring our best assets.
Para, Lindi, Ruvuma are all important. We would have case studies about youth, about peace and unity. Tufuatilie, in our history, Lindi, recently we had some problems in that area too.
Deputy Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister for Labour, Employment and People with Disabilities, Patrobas Katambi, says that the government has been promoting various projects to create employment opportunities for the young people.
The Commander-in-Chief inherits his authority, and it should be remembered that they are important people in enforcing what is done with the Global Peace Foundation.
Minister of State, Prime Minister's Office, Policy, Parliament and Coordination, George Simbachawene, says the government has today signed an agreement to establish a Center for Humanitarian Services and Emergency Operations for the SADC region. He asserts that the establishment of the center in the country will also strengthen the regional capacity to deal with disaster.
Serikali ya Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania.
The government of the United Republic of Tanzania has signed an agreement to establish a Center for Management of Human Services and Emergency Operations of the region. We have three major expectations from this center. Firstly, to strengthen and develop good relations between the SADC member states. Secondly, to strengthen the regional capacity to deal with disasters, as well as to maintain brotherhood between us. And thirdly, to strengthen the security of the people and property in the region, and to create a friendly environment for development activities, and ultimately to promote the economy of the community. The government will ensure and will continue to strengthen regional and international cooperation in disaster management with the aim of delivering humanitarian services on time and strengthening the resilience of the society against disasters for sustainable development.
Mr. Simbachawene adds that the government will continue to strengthen regional and international cooperation in disaster management with the aim of delivering humanitarian services on time and strengthening the resilience of society against disasters for sustainable development. Moving on, Deputy Minister for Industry and Trade Exaudi Kigahe says the government urges local oil and gas companies to explore ways to cooperate with large foreign companies and maximize any opportunities available. He was opening the 24th Oil and Gas Trade Fair.
Our country is ripe for investment and prosperity, and we have a bank of creative and innovative youth who would prove invaluable to your companies with their ideas. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by restating our government's commitment and readiness to continue facilitating the business community from Tanzania and abroad in realizing their objectives.
On his part, the Minister for Petroleum and Mineral Resources of Somalia, Dr. Abdirizak Omar, said that they have come to the exhibition to see the best ways to collaborate with other companies in various investment projects, while the organizer of the exhibition, Duncan Njage, highlights that they target the exhibition to be a relevant platform among local businessmen in and out of Africa.
And we are here, we know that Africa is extremely energy insecure right now. One way to address that issue is by letting international companies to come to Africa and do business in countries like Somalia, who have huge potentials of oil and gas.
This is a concurrent event where we have building construction, oil and gas, power and energy. We are having companies, more than 150, and these are the owners of the companies who have come here, who are seeking to invest in Tanzania and joint venture. So I'll ask the Tanzanians to come here as whole.
The director of neurosurgery of the Muhimbili Orthopedic Institute, MOI, Dr. Lemeri Mchome, says the government has made advanced investments in modern technology to facilitate brain cancer treatment. He further urges the citizens to seek medical diagnosis and treatments once they detect early symptoms of the disease.
I can say it's a preventive message. What we need is those people who have some signs and symptoms to report early to the clinicians for early diagnosis and treatment. And I'll give you an example. Patients who have headaches, patients who have visual problems, and patients who have problem with their hormonal balance. You might find some of the women, they are in marriage and they fail to conceive. They don't get pregnant for quite some times, like 5-10 years down the line, they have no pregnancy. These are the candidates who are supposed to see the clinician to be screened.
It has conducted 71 successful operations, but he insists that there must be many other undiagnosed patients in the community.
Is 71, but I know there are many undiagnosed patients in the community, and they don't know. And since this disease is not a very aggressive disease, people, they might stay with it for quite a long time. So the best way is to come before you lose your vision, you become blind, and before you lose your fertility.
Now let's head on to the tourism sector, whereby despite Tanzania having many tourist attractions, many Tanzanians have commended the continuous construction of modern infrastructure implemented by the government. Here's a report by Remy Asinti, read by Nasser Kingu.
The SGR railway project is one of the biggest strategic projects ever to happen in Tanzania. And upon completion, this strategic project will be the largest in East and Central Africa. Many expressed their delights on this remarkable achievement. Groups of scholars, politicians, and various experts continue to flock to visit this project regularly. And this time, more than 150 information and communication officers who had a meeting in Morogoro are here to eyewitness the project.
Unlike other attractions in Tanzania, this one is also one of them because it is something new to Tanzania.
This is great investment because it will address so many things. It is a very big step for Tanzania to own the SGR railway of a high standard. We are used to the normal tourism of visiting national parks, but this is a unique and a new tourism for Tanzania.
The TBC Director General, Dr. Ayub Rioba, says the corporation decided to organize the meeting and do the sightseeing to make the public communication experts see in action the reforms that are being carried out by the government so that they can inform the public of Tanzania about these national achievements.
It is a project to be proud of. Honestly, I knew there are few countries with SGR in Africa. But according to the experts, they have confirmed that there is no country in Africa with a long SGR like this of Tanzania that passes through a tunnel. Under it, there is a river, and the most amazing thing is that there is a railway of other ordinary trains. So for Tanzania, it is indeed a unique thing.
Chini yake kuna mto, alafu kuna reli nyingine ya zamani inapita kule chini. Yani ni kitu ambacho ni cha pekee.
The Tanzania Rail Corporation TRC head of communications says that the work is in progress and that the government plans to continue to implement even bigger projects to improve country's railway transport sector.
What is needed now is for the people to get accurate information from these ambassadors who are here with us to visit the modern railway construction. Therefore, let's continue to believe that what is being done by the government of the United Republic of Tanzania is good and ignore the words that distort correct information.
The government, through the Rural Water Supply and Sanitation Agency, RUWASA, has signed contracts with 3 contractors worth more than 2.7 billion shillings in Arusha region. The projects aim to end the water crisis around the Tufuatilie forest area and the surrounding areas of Ngorongoro. The RUWASA regional manager in Arusha, Engineer Emmanuel Makaidi, who spoke on behalf of the RUWASA Director General, says the project will have immediate positive results for many residents of the areas to be engaged in livestock keeping. Here's a report by Sechela Kongola, read by Apasi Rengo.
The signing of contracts between the government and 3 contractors who will execute 4 projects in various areas of the Ngorongoro district, including 11 villages of the Tufuatilie forest area. The RUWASA regional manager in Arusha region, Engineer Emmanuel Makaidi, is here to represent the RUWASA Director General in the country.
In Ngorongoro district alone, these projects we're going to sign contracts will rise from 70.9% and reach 74.7%. We're putting this project in 2 phases because we felt there is a need to start a project that will give quick results in order to provide the citizens with water services quickly. The first step will be the installation of infrastructure and solar electricity in the wells that we have already dug.
Ngorongoro District Commissioner Raymond Mangwala says that the project is part of the water projects implemented by the government in the district for more than 19 billion shillings.
The projects worth 2.1 billion shillings are being signed. I want to assure you that from last year until now, the President has brought water projects worth 19 billion shillings. The implementation of this project should be done on time and must follow international standards. Since the demand is high from the citizens, I ask the contractors to do this work well.
Let's now head on to Rukwa region, whereby the region has entered the list of regions in the country that use the warehouse receipt system to enable farmers to produce productively and promote the market for crops. Acting Executive Director of the Warehouse Receipts Management Board, Asange Bangu, says the crops that will be subject to the warehouse receipts procedure include maize, beans, sunflower and rice. Jose Acheo from Rukwa reports.
The Ministry of Agriculture has given instruction to the Management Board of the Warehouse Receipt System to convey education to farmers in the country. Before the implementation of this system, Rukwa region is entering the register in the use of the warehouse receipt system.
Mazao yaliyotajwa na wakulima wengi, kuna mahindi, kuna maharage, kuna alizeti, kuna mpunga. Na sisi tutaanza na mazao haya, Mheshimiwa Mgeni.
The crops mentioned by many farmers are corn, sunflower, beans and rice. That what we will start with in the receipt system in the barn by putting them in a good order, ready to be measured next year after doing an evaluation of the system. Hopes are high, it turns doing well, and if it keeps malfunctioning, we will abandon it.
Zenkansi District Commissioner Peter Juarikali has admitted that there is a wave of vendors and buyers of crops for farmers who do not follow the procedures, rules and laws of purchasing crop for farmers.
Ukweli ni kwamba mfumo huu wa stakabadhi ghalani unakwenda kumsaidia sana
mkulima wa kawaida.
This receipt system in the ban is going to help an ordinary farmer from the challenge we have now, that buyers have been involving in early buying of produce when the harvest season only begins. All of you here are witnesses of the fact that many vendors from neighboring countries storm the villages buying the produce direct in the fields. Others do involve local traders who trick farmers in a quick business of buying and selling. And very unfortunate, sometimes they lend farmers a little amount of cash in exchange for their crops during the harvest season. And it turns farmers pay a high price for their produce, which is unacceptable.
Some farmers in the Rukwa region have received the crop receipt system in the ban and its benefit in productive crop production.
Imetupa uelewa mkubwa wa kuweza kwamba ukivuna mazao yako usiuze bei ya ovyo ovyo.
The receipt system have rendered to us a clear understanding that you can harvest your crops and sell them at a high price, you get benefited. The receipt system in the ban has been delayed in Rukwa region because we have suffered a great deal of an unfriendly environment when it comes to selling the crops we produce. We've been selling them at a low prices during the harvest season. By this system coming, it really will help us.
TBC News, Rukwa.
Thank you so much, Jose Che, for that report. And that item concludes local news tonight. International news up next. National news with Apasia Ringo.
Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni and Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky have held talks for the first time. A tweet by the Ukrainian president said he outlined the Ukrainian peace initiatives at the United Nations. Zelensky said they also discussed the potential for the development of bilateral relations and added that he expected close cooperation, especially in strengthening food security. Uganda is among other countries that have abstained during the series of UN votes on Ukraine. In Nigeria, the 18 presidential candidates of the country's general election have signed a second peace accord in the capital, Abuja, in a bid to prevent unrest surrounding the February 25th polls. The pact is to ensure the conduct of free, fair, credible, transparent, and verifiable elections, cognizant of the need to maintain a peaceful environment before, during, and after the 2023 general elections, and to place national interest above personal and partisan concerns. Meanwhile, a Nigerian senatorial candidate was shot dead and his body burnt by attackers while on his way from a campaign rally in the southern state of Enugu. The death of Oyibo Chukwu of the Labour Party happened 3 days before Saturday's general election. Local media reported that his aides who were with him were also shot dead before their car was set ablaze with the bodies inside. The Labour Party has not commented on the attack, but its presidential candidate Peter Obi has been urging supporters to vote correctly, peacefully, and hopefully. The body of Burkina Faso's revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara has been reburied alongside 12 comrades at the spot of the assassination nearly 30 years ago. Soldiers and community leaders paid tribute during a ceremony at the site in the capital, Ouagadougou. Sankara came to power in August 1983 and he was shot dead together with other leaders on October 1987. The killings took place on the same day that Compaoré seized power. After Compaoré's downfall in 2014, the 13 body for an investigation which led to a lengthy trial that culminated in April 2022 with life terms in absentia for Compaoré and the suspected hit squad leader and a similar term for a detained general who had been army commander at the time. And the United Nations says that a woman dies every 2 minutes due to pregnancy or childbirth complications, despite maternal mortality rates dropping by a third in 20 years. The UN added that rates fell significantly between 2000 and 2015, but largely stagnated between 2016 and 2020, and in some regions have even reversed. According to a report by the World Health Organization and other UN agencies, says the overall maternal mortality rate dropped by 34.3% over a 20-year period from 339 maternal deaths per 100,000 live births in 2000 to 223 maternal deaths in 2020.
And that was international news. Sports news up next. And in sports news, the Minister for Culture, Arts and Sports, Dr. Pindi Chana, has directed football fans to be disciplined with the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium infrastructure so as to maintain its standards and quality. Dr. Chana furthermore has reminded the fans that the stadium represents country's history and prestige.
Naomba nitumie nafasi hii pia kusema uwanja wa taifa ni uwanja wetu wa taifa.
I would like to use this opportunity to direct the football fans that the national stadium, it's our Tanzania stadium. When we are there watching various match, example Simba and Yanga, and others match, the fans should well disciplined in order to maintain the standards and the quality of the stadium.
Lazima tulinde ile miundombinu.
Mkapa Stadium is a home ground for the giant clubs in Tanzania, Simba and Yanga, and the stadium is expected to be used for the African Super League from October of this year. In other sports news, some Simba Sports Club fans allege that the past club election was not a democratic one and they don't accept the final results of the election that was held earlier this year. They insist that they will fight for their rights and urge Prevention and Combating of Corruption Bureau, PCCB, to deal with the issue.
Among of the things that surprised us, the result was not fair. The election was sabotaged. How can both copy and the original form can be a vote? We have sent a copy of our claim to Tanzania Football Federation, our investor Mohamed Dewji, but also the National Council of Sports. Apart of that, we have written a letter to Prevention and Combating of Corruption Bureau asking for the investigation because we are not accepted with the result of election.
And that marks the end of our news bulletin for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. I am Faida Ngaga. Good night.
TBC1, ukweli na uhakika.